Should you be an officer in the United States Army? Recently, I just made a video talking about the roles of an enlisted soldier versus an officer and kind of what are the things that you do, just in a really general way, kind of the roles of an officer versus enlisted. But in this video, I want to talk about if you should be an officer or if you should stay enlisted, because in that video, I talked about kind of how officers get treated much better than enlisted soldiers do, and that's still true. But because of that, like, do you think you should be an officer, or, you know, because of some of the roles and stuff that I said about officer and enlisted, like, which one should you actually be? And I think a lot of that has to do with your personality, but I really want to talk about all the things that I can in this video. In my last video, I talked about how officers usually are the ones making the plan for whatever unit that they're in charge of. They're usually the guys making the plan. Now, because of that, you don't really make a plan out in the field, getting your hands dirty, doing a whole bunch of nitty-gritty, really difficult stuff. When you're making a plan, you're sitting in an office, you're drawing up on a whiteboard, you're printing off all these papers and making all these op orders, and you're doing all this paperwork, and that's kind of a big deal for your job. Now, you're still communicating with your soldiers and blah, 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 doing all that stuff, motivating them, doing PT, doing all that stuff. But the biggest thing of your job is really going to be like solving problems and a lot of, I guess, paperwork. I guess we can just boil it down to paperwork. You're creating op orders and plans, and you're typing up presentations and doing all this stuff. And that's kind of what your job's going to be consisted of. As an officer, you're going to be making the plan. Now, for you, if you're asking yourself, should I be an officer? And that is entirely on your personality. I don't think that everybody is cut out to be an officer, right? I really don't think people are cut out to be officers. I mean, you get paid more, you have more responsibility because of that pay, because you are the one that is making the decision. You are the one, when you send your guys out there and they die, it's technically your fault and you take the blame for it. So there's a whole lot of responsibility on being an officer. Therefore, you get paid a little bit more, right? So one of the things that you got to think about for yourself, are you more of a natural leader, right? So being a natural leader is something that I think is pretty much imperative to being an officer. I know since I've been going through ROTC and as a cadet, I've noticed that most, I would say maybe the vast majority, but most cadets are just natural leaders. We're kind of, we like taking charge in a lot of things in life. So if there's a situation, a scenario going on, are you the guy that's usually taking charge of that situation? Are you the one that likes to make the decision on what's going on? Do you, like myself, not like to be the product of a bad decision? Would you rather be the one who makes the bad decision and be, you know, blamed for it, to take responsibility for it so you can improve upon it and make things better? Or are you not that person? Or are you kind of the person that is happy with occasionally being in charge, but it's not like your aspiration? It's like you don't want to be in charge, right? But, you know, if the opportunity comes up, like, you could do it. That's kind of like an NCO thing, right? In my opinion. You could be somebody that literally just likes taking orders from another person, not like in a crazy way, but like you don't really like to have to think about things. And again, not in a bad way. You would just prefer to not have to deal with all the hardships of the paperwork and the planning and just all the hard, difficult thinking that has to go into the planning. You would just rather be told, hey, here's the plan, go carry out this plan and get it done. That's the kind of person that you might rather be than you might be more of just an enlisted guy, which, again, most of you, I said this in the last video, most of you guys watching this video right now are going to be enlisted soldiers. It's kind of like the general theme of my channel. Most of you guys are enlisted soldiers. But, I mean, if you're watching this video, you probably, maybe have some kind of aspirations to be an officer, or you're just curious whether or not you should be an officer. And that's something to think about. Are you more comfortable taking orders from somebody else? Are you comfortable being in front of other people? Because as officers, in the military in general, because I'm just going to tell you guys, it doesn't matter if you're scared of public speaking, it doesn't matter. At some point in time in the military, you're going to be talking to a group of people. You're going to be briefing people. But as officers, that happens like on a daily basis. We'll be, talking about a plan, preparing something, distributing it, talking to the whole company, giving them a pep talk or something like that. So officers will be doing much, much more public speaking than enlisted soldiers. And, as like the number one fear of most people, I hate public speaking, but I know it's something that you've just got to do in life. Like, you've just got to do it. And so I've kind of overcome that for the most part. But officers will be talking and public speaking a whole lot more than the enlisted soldiers will. Not to say enlisted soldiers won't, but that's also something that you might want to consider. Like, do you think you're cut out for being an officer, or do you think you're cut out to be an enlisted soldier? Because the roles are going to be very, very different. The officer guy, again, is the one planning. Do you like to be the guy who is in charge, of everything, to have all of the weight resting on your shoulders, whether you succeed or whether you fail? If you're okay with that, then you're probably going to be more cut out to be an officer. If you are the guy, I guess this is a summary right now, but if you are the guy that is okay with taking orders from somebody else, and not to say officers aren't, but if you're okay with taking somebody else's plan, having them give it to you, and then you just carry it out with your smaller group of people, then going through the enlisted ranks, making it up to an NCO, that is probably a good plan for you. The biggest thing that people talk about when they say that they would rather be enlisted than be officers, and that is like the hands-on experience that you get as an enlisted soldier. As I've said before, the enlisted guys are the ones who are carrying out the plan. The officers create the plan. I've said it a bajillion times. But what that means is the enlisted guys are really the ones getting a lot of the experience doing whatever it is you're supposed to do. If you want to be a mechanic, the enlisted soldiers are going to be the ones working on the vehicles. If you want to be signal like myself, the enlisted soldiers are going to be the one actually working with the technology. If you want to be infantry or just anything, the enlisted soldiers, a pilot, especially a lot of people use this example with pilots, but you as an enlisted soldier will be the one who are actually doing the majority of the work. As an officer, once you reach to the rank of major, which is essentially after, let's say, 8 to 10 years, after that, your time of really doing a lot of hands-on stuff is over. You don't get to do as much anymore, because at the point of becoming major, you're like a battalion XO, and it's just a whole lot of paperwork and not a whole lot of hands-on stuff that you're going to be doing. And that's just something that you're going to have to consider. You may have noticed that I haven't talked about warrant officers, and I did that on purpose. I thought this video would get a little bit too long if I started covering warrant officers and should you be that. So for any of you guys who are going into the Army as enlisted, you've already signed your contract, but you might think that you want to be an officer at some point in your career. That is totally fine and okay, because there's multiple different ways that you can go about that. You can do the OCS program and go through that route to become an officer after you've been enlisted for a while, or you could do the green to gold program and go about that route to become an officer in the Army. So like a lot of people, you might enlist into the Army, like a lot of you guys probably are, and you're going to be in there for a little bit and you're going to realize, man, I do not want to be enlisted anymore. I would rather be an officer. I'm tired of dealing with all of this crap. I would rather be the one who puts out the crap in a way. So that's just something that you can think about. And it's not the end of the world if you think, oh gosh, I should be an officer right now. That's not the end of the world. Your career in the Army is going to be long, and you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't worry about you made a decision right now. If you've decided to go enlist, but maybe you want to go officer, you made a decision right now. Just stick with that, and then at some point in time, go about the green to gold program, or whenever you become an NCO, go through the OCS program to be an officer, and you'll be just fine. You'll finish out your last 15 years or so as an officer, which will be pretty cool. So that's it for this video. I hope it helped you guys out at least a little bit. Maybe if you're on the fence of which one you should do, maybe you've graduated college and you want to possibly go the OCS route. Maybe this video helped you out in making your decision. But if this video helped out in any way, hitting that like button would be awesome. If you have any questions or anything for me, leave your comments down below. If you want to stick around for some more videos from me in the future, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys later.